guys, it's Paula from PSN Creations. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you're returning. Today's video is a flip through of a sewing themed journal that I made. So I took a Butterick sewing pattern pouch and I used that for the front and the back cover of this book. So I repurposed a hardback book. I think this is like one of the ones that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. So it's just a book that I gutted and just wanted the black hardback book part of it. And I sewed the pattern onto a file folder to give it some stability because these are older patterns. And then I glued them onto the hardback book. So you can see here, I even kept the little flap. I just glued it on here and then, like I said, sewed it onto the file folder. And it is a hidden spine. Now, I put fabric on it anyway, so I didn't really have to make it a hidden spine, but it is. So you can't see that it was a 3 pamphlet stitch. 2 signatures, total of 80 pages front and back. And the book itself measures 8 1/4 by 5 1/4 with a 1-inch spine. So, and the tie is a removable tie, and it's just like a sari silk that I pulled off of, you know, those rugs that you can get from like Five Below and you can pull them off. I know it has a name and I totally can't remember the name of it, but this is one of the strips that I pulled off. And I did, because the strips are very uneven, I did sew it. And then once I sewed it, I cut any of the excess off. So I just thought that it went well. I don't know. You guys tell me if you think that this tie goes well with this book. And then the fabric that I used, it's very vintage looking. It is not vintage fabric that I can remember. It could have been. I can't remember. But because I did get it. Well, that doesn't make it vintage. I think I picked up the fabric in 2020. It was a fat quarter, or 2021. But I don't know what year the fabric was from. So neither here nor there. I think it went well with the colors, the red and the browns. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I enjoy making the sewing themed journals. That's like one of my favorite themes to make different journals on. So the inside of the book was just plain white. So what I did was I took the this particular pattern, sewing pattern, the tissue paper, the pattern tissue paper was cut up because it was used and there was very limited pieces. I have some from other sewing patterns, so it's not like if I couldn't use, but I do like to use the original stuff that goes with the actual sewing pattern that we're using. You're not going to get it all there, but anyways, I backed the inside of the book, the front and the back, with the tissue paper. And then on the spine, there is more of that fabric. So again, it's a hidden spine. So I just put a little clear pouch here. I think these I picked up like at Target during the school season. They're like little pouches. And then I just took this index card that had been coffee dyed and added a little bit of a vintage crocheted lace here, a piece from the instructions of this sewing pattern, and then a little notions stamp, sewing notions stamp. So I thought that was cute, a little bit of writing space. So I do have some vintage pages in here. This is a vintage sewing magazine. It might be a crochet one. I can't remember if it's crochet or stitching or sewing, but I thought it went well. It's black and white images. We'll have coffee dyed and avocado dyed paper. I also had some like little snippets of other sewing patterns, so I kind of added that there as well to this page. This is from a small vintage, I think this was like a macrame book, a vintage macrame book. So there's that piece in here. Another copy dyed or tea dyed, I can't remember which one it is. Some sewing pattern here that was just ruffled up. So it's not necessarily a ruffle. It was like scrunched and then glued just to give it a little bit of dimension. This is a vintage trim border fabric. I guess it's a vintage trim, but it's thick. So, and it was like, what is it called when it's scrunched up? Oh, I can't think of the word. But anyways, I broke that seam so that it was straight. I glued it onto a piece of a thin cardstock, and I sewed it all the way around so that it gave it a little bit of stability. And then we just made this journaling card. Hope is never lost. Some vintage trim up here. I stamped this little fashionista lady, and this is on a file folder. And this is a vintage dictionary page. This is a image from another vintage sewing pattern. I just cut her out of the pattern itself, the pouch. Avocado dyed paper. This is a piece of the instruction booklet for this particular sewing pattern. 9106. It matches 9106. This was 50 cents back in the day. That'll tell you how old it is. I cannot remember the year of this one. I think that the outfit will tell you. This is the 60s, right? I think this is 60s, if I'm not wrong. Is it 60s or 70s? You guys let me know in the comments. Maybe you know better than I do. A paper doily, vintage music sheet with some vintage lace trim there. And this is just a handmade paper, not by me. I did not make it, but it has a little stamp of a lady. And if you had like colored pencils, you can color that in as well. This is another piece of that pattern instructions. I added this washi sticker here of this lady and then a vintage button, and it is sewn around. And as you know, a lot of my tags and journaling cards, I recycle food containers. One, it gives it a little bit more stability than cardstock, and sometimes even the file folder. If I want something or need something that's thin, then I will use file folder. But if the pocket that I'm creating and the page can withstand something a little bit heavier, that's where I may use my containers, right? The recycled food containers. Like this one, for example, I felt like the page is older, right? This dictionary page is older. It's from the 30s. And as well as this, this pocket here. So I used the file folder, a thin file folder. I didn't want anything super duper thick, is what I'm trying to say. Avocado dyed paper. This is the middle of the first signature. So you won't see the little tails because I did sew it in from the outside in, and that hides the tails. You can see, look, do you see when this paper was dyed, somehow there was like spottage that happened. Maybe when it was dried. I don't know. This is actually typewriter paper. So it is thinner. You'll hear it. You'll feel it. It's thinner than copy paper. Here's another page of the vintage music sheet. And I added this. She's from another sewing pattern. And then the doily. So we've seen these pages, right, already on the other side. Here I added just a little cluster with book pages. And then I added her. She, again, is from another sewing pattern. I just cut her out. And in this little side tuck here is just a piece of scrap paper that I had that I inked all the way around. I did do a little bit of stamping. I can't remember what that says, but a little Sewing Notion stamping. I figured this can be like, you can add your measurements if you're kind of, or if you have a project in mind that you want to sew. And then just a little bit of washi tape here just to add a little bit of something to the inside. And then we have another vintage ruffled lace here on the edge that is sewn on. A little cluster using pieces of the instruction booklet, some lace and some packing paper and some piano paper as well. Here's the macrame I believe that's macrame. Book page. It might be fabric. Smocking. No, this might be a fabric book. I cannot remember. Where in the world did I get this from? Like, what book is what I'm trying to say, not like where did I get it from. But okay, well, I can't find it right now. And then of course I had to add one of my little mailer pockets. So this is a large mailer pocket, and we have a cutout from another journal. I added a little bit of fabric right here. It's a book page on the back, little stamping notion, and then I have the tissue, the pattern tissue paper layered on as well. Again, recycled food container, sewn all the way around. This is a side tuck. And then this is just a vintage sewing machine stamp, and then little scissors, and I added a little bit of washi tape right there. And then we move on to the second signature. The second signature is another magazine, sewing magazine that I had. I'm sorry, this is a sewing book that I had. And I had this little yo-yo. I believe it's a vintage yo-yo. I picked it up at one of those Restore. It's one of my Restore hauls where I picked up a little baggie of yo-yos that were already made. So I went ahead and used that. We have avocado dyed paper. You can see this is very deep pink. Here is another sewing. This is from a magazine. I think this was from a sewing magazine, if I remember correctly. But it shows you the little pattern. So that I thought that was nice. And then here's another junk mailer envelope. We have a little paper cluster from a dictionary here. And then we have her as a washi sticker right there. I added a little bit of washi tape right here as well. And then here is the tag. So a little paper flower. And then we have sewn all the way around. This is the instruction, piece of the instruction booklet that comes with the sewing pattern, and then two washi stickers. Actually, she's washi, and this one's not a washi sticker, but it is a sticker. And if I can, I try to position them so that I need to now fix that. It's okay. So that, you can see them out the window too. So lined coffee dyed paper, regular paper, lots of writing room, no different than any of my journals, right? Lots of writing room. This is a smaller dictionary page. I added just up here. It's this, I think it's like a curtain trim, piping, maybe that's what it's called, like a type of piping that has a little bit of a design, but it's like a burgundy color. And then this is another one of those clusters that I made using piano paper and a little piece of the instruction booklet, and then a little bit of extra scrapped lace that I had. And on this side, I just added coffee dyed lined paper, and I glued it down, and it's just an extra spot for you to write. And I did stamp a little sewing notion there. It's a little measuring tape. Here's more of that flat vintage white lace. And it's another vintage music sheet and another image from another sewing pattern that I fussy cut and added. Sew and save, tips, hints, and news. I think this is one from a sewing, what are those called? A work basket. Yeah, this is from a work basket magazine. And then we have typewriter paper again, and the sewing instructions, another page of that. And this is the middle of the second signature. I just liked how this was right there. This is like an image of the front of the sewing pattern pouch as well. So this work basket, it doesn't say what year. Oh yeah, January 1978. So here I had this doily. Handkerchief. This was a little handkerchief that I had. So I cut out a little piece of it. I just thought that the colors went well, maybe with the year in the 70s. And I just sewed it onto this music sheet and made a little pocket. And this is just a reproduction. That's the word I'm looking for. This was a reproduction, like a magazine page and I made it into, again, recycled food container into a journaling card. I do have it paper clipped here just because it is a little bit heavier, and like I said, when I have a thin pocket, even though it's sewed on, I like to, have a little bit of security there. This is the other side of the dictionary page, and I just made an actual ruffle using some of the pattern. It was like I folded it a few times, so there's a little bit of thickness to it. You can see here, and then I use my shearing scissors to cut and make the image on the side. I wasn't sure on this side. I might add another piece of paper, like the lined paper that I did on the other one, so that you can have a little bit of writing space, or I'll leave it like that, and then somebody else can, whoever gets it can decorate it however they'd like to. This is just either tea dyed or copy dyed copy paper. This is copy paper, not typewriter paper. And I just had a cutout of another sewing pattern. So I just added that to the top. It's a completely different sewing pattern. It's Simplicity 7766. A little bit older maybe because it was 75 cents versus 50 cents. So yeah, there you have it. Here's that magazine again page with a little bit of that vintage ruffled. It's like a sheer ruffled beige trim. Avocado dyed paper, and then the last page is again from that booklet. And here I did another one of those hand made paper that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. I did not make this. I added a washi sticker here. And then I took another, again, pieces of that, the sewing booklet instructions. And I took an index card with this one, and I just added packing paper just to give it a little bit more stability as well. So you have the index card, the packing paper, and then a little snippet of the pattern. And then I added a little bit of fabric that I had, just a little piece of fabric that I had, and sewed it on top and sewed it at the bottom. And it does have lines so that you can, again, write measurements or a sewing project idea or something. And then this one's the same concept, except for I used cardstock. I used cardstock on it, and I used a different fabric here, sewed it there, sewed it there. This was a little bit bigger than the index card, this snippet here that I had. So, and I wanted to like keep the whole thing, so I just went ahead and just used a cardstock. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this flip through and this journal. Again, I absolutely love making the sewing pattern journals. I have a few videos of processes that I've done to make these. So if you're interested, I'm going to make a few more. If you're interested in me filming those processes and putting out videos for that, leave me a comment down below, because I just need to know. I'm obviously going to do it. It takes a little bit longer to film, but that's okay, because if you're interested in it, I'm happy to share the process that I follow, and maybe it gives you an idea for you. So if you're interested in this journal, I will have it posted on my website. The link to my website will be in the description. And I will also have it right here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, guys, for watching. Bye.